time for. So, Antoinette, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Allison. Good evening, everyone. It's really good to see you all. I think I'm seeing a lot of you maybe for the first time. Well, greetings from the other end of the state. I'm here in Camden County, good old cozy old Camden County in the belly of the beast, as they say. Um, but it's really good to be with you all this evening. And I'm really appreciative of Soma Action and your leadership, and Allison in particular, for allowing me to be here this evening. You all are, I don't want to say very fortunate. That kind of sounds self-indulgent a little bit, but today was the first day that I have stepped into the role of being interim state director for New Jersey Working Families Party. So thank you so much. I see the hands. So I'm really excited to talk to you in that capacity. And I've been with WFP since last July, and where I started off as the political director. And I appreciate Allison for giving my background and my resume. I'm actually drinking out of my House of Representatives cup, even though you can't really see it, but the House of Representatives is never far from me, as they say. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm going to share my screen in just a minute to talk to you all about the line. How about really quickly in the chat, if you somebody drop an emoji about how you feel about the line, if you know about it, if you don't know about it, maybe you put a confused emoji. If you know about it and you absolutely hate it, maybe you put an angry emoji. So let's sort of just see some reactions in the chat going off here. I see Sean is already taking me up on my offer. Oh, Valerie has that frustrated face. I too get that, like, that kind of face. Good one, Becky. Is a poop emoji. Erica's upset. So this is really, really great. And that just gives me a feel for all of you and your various degrees of knowledge. Oh, somebody put a frowny face, which is accurate. Accurate. But it just gives me a feel for all of you and your various degrees of knowledge. Some of you may be hearing some of the information that I'm presenting for the first time. And some of you may be a little bit more experienced and know about the line and been around the block of New Jersey politics for a long time. So I hope that my presentation, that you will take away essentially two things if you remember anything at all. The line is about democratic representation, small d, democratic representation. It's about democracy, and it is about the integrity of our elections, which, all of those three things are very interwoven and interconnected. So if you take away anything from this presentation that I go through this evening, it is those three things that are paramount. And this is why it is so critical, why I'm speaking to you all tonight, especially on the topic of small d democratic issues and reforms here in New Jersey. So I will sort of take it away. And I see some questions are coming in already in the chat. I'm going to try to do them at the end, if that's all right. So bear with me, but keep them coming as I'm speaking. Okay.
I'll be collecting questions from the chat as well for the end of Antoinette's presentation. So pop them in whenever.
Okay, great. Can you all see the screen pretty well, the full screen? All right. So before we even dive into it, I know I just gave a little preamble anyway, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is Working Families Party. I know some of you may be familiar with our, former state director who just stepped down to run in the 7th District, Sue Altman. But just for those of you who don't know about Working Families Party, we started in the 1990s in New York, and now we have chapters and affiliates in multiple states. Actually, here in New Jersey, we started off as the New Jersey Working Families Alliance, and we were the WFA for a very, very long time. And we started off with a coalition of labor unions like CWA, Communications Workers of America, SDIU, 32BJ Labor Union, and a number of grassroots and advocacy groups. And then we decided, okay, we're gonna put on our big girl pants, as they say, and we're gonna shift from being WFA, the operating more as a 501c4 organization, and really step into being a grassroots organization here in our state, with ultimately building a political party here in New Jersey, which is very, very, very difficult no matter where you go, but particularly very difficult in New Jersey because of the line and other factors that we have. So today, you know, you won't find us on the ballot, right? We're not New York and Connecticut. You're not going to see Working Families Party on the ballot, although we do endorse candidates, progressive candidates all across the state. And we play a large role in issue advocacy. We were part of the millionaires tax fight, paid sick leave fight, temporary rights for temporary workers, and you name it. Working Families was probably fighting right alongside other grassroots advocates and advocacy groups and labor unions for it, including $15 minimum wage. So that's who we are, and that's who we try to be. And I hope that gives you a little bit of flavor for us and what we do. So let's talk about New Jersey's election. That's why we're all here tonight, right? We're here to talk about the primaries. And I realize that, as Allison so eloquently said before, you know, you guys are actually, I don't want to say fortunate. That's not the terminology I want to use, but you're pretty much in the minority here when it comes to contested primaries in the state of New Jersey. And the ugly truth is that when it comes to New Jersey primaries, this is not by accident that we have so many uncontested seats in our primary elections. I was actually reading an article this morning in Gothamist. If you guys know Nancy Solomon from WNYC, who's a great reporter, she just did a profile talking about New Jersey's primaries. And this year, only 13% of the state, when it comes to our statewide elections for the state assembly and state senate, only 13% of those races are actually going to have primaries. 13%. And so that goes into my first point, is saying democracy, we're in danger, girl, right? Just like Whoopi Goldberg said in that one movie, we're in danger, girl. Because essentially the primary election in New Jersey matters more than the general election. And because we have so many uncontested primary races on the Republican and the Democratic side, essentially the primary election, many candidates go unopposed, and the winner of the election is decided before we even get to election day. Now, again, I realize like LD 28 is an exception this year. You're having a primary election. But for the vast majority of the voters here in New Jersey that are going to go to the polls on election day, they will look at their ballot and they will see one option. And again, that is not by accident, that is by design. And the other thing that is an ugly truth about New Jersey's elections is that they are a hot mess. Each county does what they want, how they want it. And this will become a bit more apparent as I continue throughout my presentation here tonight, and talking about the various ways in which county clerks and our county board of elections operate their elections differently from others. So what is the line? Everybody's talking about the line. Is it the, it's always, it feels so abstract, right? Like, how do we actually define it? And maybe your head, you're thinking, oh, does it have to do with something called machine politics? Yes. Does it have to do with voter suppression? I certainly would argue it does. And is it the design of our ballot? Is it literally the columns and the lines that we see on the ballot? And the answer is yes to all three of those questions. And I'm going to go deeper into that to give you a little bit more context of the actual structure of the ballot and the line. So when we're talking about the line, I really want to emphasize that we're talking about two sort of distinct things that operate within each other. we're talking about the unprecedented power that county chairs and party insiders have in selecting candidates and giving them preferential placement on the ballot. And then we're actually talking about the design of the ballot. And so we know when we go in the voting booth here in New Jersey, unless you're in Salem and Sussex County, ironically, you will go in the voting booth and you will see column A, column B. You will see many, many, many columns and candidates appearing in those columns. And so our county clerks, through various different processes, and I can tell you here in Camden County, they do a ballot draw for who gets column A and who gets column B, and there's a very arduous process of bracketing, right? And so bracketing is the process of which multiple candidates who want to associate with each other will appear together on the line. So in Camden County, I could tell you the way that it looks. I could show you how it looks in just a few. But what I want you to take away is that New Jersey ballots are unlike any other state. No other state has ballots that look the way that our ballots look. And so the result of that is that New Jersey is operating by its own set of rules. And really, those rules do vary from county to county. So I just want to go into the definition here. So essentially, when there's a party leader, whether it be the party chair, or maybe it is a mayor with a lot of power, thinking about Hudson County at the moment, or maybe it is an unelected power broker, thinking about Camden County at the moment. When that party leader essentially has a favorite candidate, they typically will give the party line or the party's endorsement to that favorite candidate. And what that allows them to do is that allows their endorsed candidates to be grouped together on the ballot in a prime position. And what that prime position does is that it allows them to attract the maximum attention from voters. Some social scientists call this primacy effect, particularly if you're a candidate in column A. And I know somebody was mentioning to me on this call that they were doing some analysis of ballot positioning and bracketing and slates. But essentially, you're able to extract so much attention from the voters simply by appearing in a column with other candidates above you and below you. And so if you're a candidate that is a reformer or an outsider or a progressive, someone who wants to make change, essentially you are at a disadvantage almost to the tune of 30%. So essentially, just by simply being the endorsed candidate and receiving the line from your individual county chair, you are almost all but certain to win that election. And that is even before voters step in the voting booth. Again, I say we have democracy and we're in danger, girl, for a reason. And so the candidates that are not given the county line, or they call them off the line, they're usually in separate columns or in separate rows. Sometimes those candidates are maybe running against each other and they're actually bracketed together, which confuses the voter, because instead of looking at the ballot and seeing that maybe two candidates may be running against each other, you will look at the ballot and actually see candidates that it looks like they're running with each other when they're running against each other. And I'll actually show you an example of that. And the worst example of this is what we all call ballot Siberia, right? So you'll have your preferential candidates all the way in the first column, and then you will have candidates who are not preferred by the party, outsiders, reformers, people who are coming up from the grassroots, people like you and me, who are not incurring favor from our party, a party leader. They will be put in ballot Siberia, all the way to the far off regions of the ballots where voters would never even look to find them. This is bad ballot design. And again, it doesn't have to be this way. And New Jersey is the only state that does this. So why is this important to you all today? I sort of opened with that already, but I just want to emphasize this already again. this is really important because fair elections with wide participation are the bedrock of democracy. Looking at our primary election coming up next week, we are expecting abysmal turnout, probably the lowest that we will ever see. And that's really harmful for our democracy. We want people to be active and engaged in our elections. We want people to be active and engaged in who is representing them. But because of the line, and ultimately, I believe, and this is my opinion, I think because of the line, many people opt out of elections because they feel that their vote does not matter. They feel that they don't have a choice because essentially the choice has been already made for them. And voters may not immediately identify it as the line or anything of that nature, but going in the voting booth and seeing that essentially there there is no competition, there is no debate upon ideas, there is no challenge of the status quo, there is nothing there to be had in terms of our elections. Voters feel disengaged, and I feel that that is like very, very real, and something that we all must collectively work towards resolving. And so, again, this is not by accident. This is uniquely and intentionally confusing. And I fundamentally believe that it is voter disenfranchisement because you are having essentially gerrymandering of the ballot, where you have, again, reformers, outsiders, people who are not affiliated with an establishment within a political party, whether they be Democrat or Republican. You essentially have those candidates all the way off in a far column on the ballot where voters would never find them. And you have the preferential candidates in a position where they are almost undoubtedly able to win every single time. So what does an ideal ballot look like? Nobody has ever seen this before unless you lived in Nevada in 2018. Nobody in this this looks like a foreign language to me. Now I'm not a scholar on ballot design, but there have been studies that have been done, and I encourage folks to look into various presentations that have been done through Rutgers University, Seton Hall Law School. Julia Sachs-Rubin is a political scientist from Rutgers University that consistently looks at ballot design as well as the effects of the line, and has gone into this in ballot design in particular. But what does an ideal or a more a traditional ballot that you would see in another state look like? So this is the primary ballot that you see in Elkin County, Nevada in 2018. What you'll see is very clearly in the boxes, you have what office someone is running for, so United States Senator, and the names of those candidates that are running. Again, you have governor and then the name of the candidates that are running, United States Representative, and the name of the candidates that are running. So it is very easy to see what offices are up for election and who is running for those offices. Easy peasy. No, I find it very hard to be confused by this. Somebody might argue with me on that, but I'm looking at this and thinking that it's very easy for me as a voter to go in the voting booth and understand what decisions I have to make. And actually, we don't even have to look to Nevada. We can just look right here in New Jersey. So this is the ballot in Salem County. And again, this is me emphasizing that each county does it structures their ballot however they want to structure them. So this is the ballot in Salem County in the 2017 primary election. So Salem County as well as Sussex County do not have the line. And very clearly, you can see this is the gubernatorial election that Phil Murphy was running in. But very clearly, you can see what candidates are running for governor of New Jersey, what candidates are running for assembly, state senate, state, and for their local committee members. It's very easy for me to see who is running for what position and what my options are, as well as the slogans of each individual candidate. Now, somebody might argue with me, well, what if your name appears first as opposed to second, third, fourth, or fifth? Does that have its own primacy effect, if you will? And I think that there are some studies out there that talk about that, but I would challenge and say that the primacy effect that you get from your name appearing first in this sort of block format, as they call it, is very, very small compared to the primacy effect that we see with the line. All right, so we know what this looks like. This is what we see here in New Jersey every single year when we go in the voting booth. This is what New Jersey really have, which is the line. And this is actually a ballot in Camden County, and I know that it's particularly small, so I'm going to do my best to try to draw attention to some areas that make sense. So in column 2, excuse me, see, now I practice my own primacy effect there. I completely skipped column 1, where there is a candidate running for U.S. Senate. In column 1, you will see a candidate, Lisa McCormick, there, who is running for U.S. Senate. And then in column 2, you will see Senator Bob Menendez, Donald Norcross going all the way down. And those are the county candidates who have the line. Now, all the way in column 9, if you even venture to look that over there, is actually somebody who's running against Donald Norcross for the House of Representatives. But I would have no way of knowing that unless I looked all the way in column 9. So as a voter, I'm automatically going to look to the far left of the column, which is the primacy effect that I talked about, as opposed to all the way to the far right. And then actually, if we looked at the far right, a column in column 9, those are candidates that are actually running against each other, but they are forced to be in the same column, not because they chose to be, but because the county clerk put them in the same column. And so for the voter, this is highly confusing. So number 1, it does not look, if I'm looking at column 1, even though Lisa McCormick is in column 1 and she's the first one, she doesn't have any other candidates underneath her. And so therefore, to me as a voter, that person looks less legitimate. And then I see Bob Menendez and that slate there, that looks like a legitimate slate. There's people in each column and in each row, and I can see who's running for those seats. Never mind the fact that I would never even go all the way to column 9 and realize that there are other candidates that are running for election and are actually competing against each other. And the same thing is happening for a local council race. If you look to the far right and you see that red square that's circled at the end, those are, again, 2 council candidates running against each other that are in the same column. However, it looks like they are actually running with each other and not against each other. And so that automatically gives a very favorable position for the candidate in column 2, Marilyn Torres, who's running for election. It almost doesn't even look like she's running against anyone if I even venture to look at column 9. So as you can see, that is a hot mess. And it's not just Camden County, this happens in counties all over the state. I'm gonna talk about, I raised Camden County, obviously, because I live here, and that's one of the most egregious examples. But we are seeing this happening in all counties across New Jersey that have the line. And unfortunately, or not unfortunately, what I will say is that there is a lawsuit that I will go into a little bit later. And so this is being used as the evidence to demonstrate why the line system that we have in New Jersey is unconstitutional. So why abolish the line? Why even get rid of it in the first place? Well, hopefully if you're like me and you just took a look at that ballot, you feel pretty demoralized about our state of elections. I hope I haven't demoralized you too much. I promise to inject a little bit more hope at the end. But why abolish the line? Because we know that the system will not fix itself. We have had the line system in New Jersey for many, 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 many years. And so in order to fundamentally begin to open up our democracy here in New Jersey, in order to actually have the kinds of change that we want to see in our state, we must get rid of the line. We need to get rid of the undue influence of political party leaders, particularly those who are not even elected by us, the people. And this is truly about shifting power back to the voters and allowing people to truly choose their nominee. I think it was actually in the Gothamist article today, and pardon, this is my South Jersey bias showing, But I didn't even realize that Essex County didn't even have a convention to choose its candidates. It is essentially the party leaders who decide. And even though Essex County may have elected Democratic or Republican municipal leaders, those leaders actually have little to no say in who gets chosen or endorsed by the party. It really is the party leaders that have a lot of control and decision at the end of the day of who they feel the best candidate is. Now, somebody may challenge me and say, well, Antoinette, well, don't you think that the party leaders actually know, have vetted the candidates and know exactly who's the best person to get their endorsement? And then I would say, would you look at New Jersey lately and understand that, saying that the party always knows automatically over the voters who is the best and most preferred candidate to get their endorsement is not always true. Again, this is truly about shifting power back to the voters, and this is about restoring trust in government and reinvigorating our politics. Again, this primary election is going to have abysmally low turnout, and again, that's not by accident. And so we must reinvigorate our politics, bring people back into the political process, not just from the voters' perspective, but from the candidate perspective. Candidates are acutely aware in order to be viable, in order to actually be able to be a true competitor. Let's put money and other things aside. There's a lot of things that go into a viable candidacy. But at the end of the day, they know that the line is critical to their success or to their downfall. All right, so I know I just explained all of that, and you're like, Antoinette, how are we supposed to believe you? You're just saying that because that's your opinion. And so I will point you to New Jersey Policy Perspective. And for those of you who don't know New Jersey Policy Perspective, they are a think tank here in New Jersey. They do incredible, amazing research on various issues, including related to budget and taxation and different reforms. And so they actually issued a report a few years ago. I think this report is about 3 years old now. So it's a slightly ever so old, but not totally outdated. So they issued what's called the Towing the Line report. And actually, Julia Sass-Rubin, political scientist from Rutgers University, contributed to this report. And so here's some fundamental questions. I just explained all of that to you. And you're probably saying, okay, well, Antoinette, is that really that impactful? Like, it can't be that every time a candidate is on the line that they automatically win. And I'm here to tell you that actually, yes. So candidates on the line rarely lose, and the advantage is measurable. In comparison, so there was a comparison that was done for the 2020 New Jersey primary, and the average margin between an endorsed candidate who received the line versus a candidate who did not receive the line was 35 percentage points. I think I said 30% earlier, so it's actually worse than I even thought. It was 35 percentage points. So inherently, just by being on the line, your margin of victory will be 35 points over somebody who is not on the line. Then you're saying, well, it can't always be true. There's definitely candidates that win over the line. And I think this figure has actually changed a little bit. I think there might be one person now that might have run in a state legislative race and won. But for the sake of this presentation, between 2009 and 2018, zero incumbents on the line lost their primary between 2009 and 2018. So when you think about that in a span of about a decade, it seems like 2009 to 2018, for 10 years, there was no change. So essentially from the time I could have been in high school to when I graduated college is essentially, I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong thing. I graduated in 2012, guys. Stay with me here. But essentially, from my freshman year of college to 2018, there was no change in the state legislature. And this is not just true for state level politics. Again, I showed the ballot in Camden County that demonstrated Donald Norcross as well as Senator Bob Menendez on the ballot. They too have to fight and vie for the line and get the party's endorsement. And again, only two congressional incumbent candidates lost a primary in the last 50 years. And that happened to be Amy Kennedy in South Jersey won her primary against Jeff Andrew at the time. So, what about incumbents? It shouldn't matter to them because if they have name recognition, people know them. It doesn't matter if they're on the line or off the line. And I'm here to tell you that unfortunately that's not the case. The line protects incumbents at all levels of New Jersey government. And I'll even give an example. So we may remember that Gordon Johnson, I forget which district this was, but this was in Bergen County, the state legislative district. Gordon Johnson was in a primary against Valerie Huddle, two very well established legislators that had been serving in the state legislature for many, many years. Gordon Johnson received the line endorsement for the state Senate seat. They were both in the assembly at the time. Gordon Johnson received the line for the state Senate seat. Valerie Huddle did not. And unfortunately, Valerie Huddle did lose. We can sort of put aside our political inclinings of who's the better legislator here. But for the sake of this argument, you had two established incumbents who had been serving decades in the state legislature, or at least a decade in the state legislature, going against each other. And of course, the candidate that had the line won. Okay. So, what are the impacts of the line? So, I talked about this a little bit, but I want to be very clear about what the impacts are and what this means for New Jersey voters. Of course, I talked about the ways that voters feel disengaged, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. What this essentially means is that a small number of party insiders decides who wins an election before we even get to election day. And that is dangerous for our democracy because if party leaders are deciding who wins an election, that means that those candidates are not beholden to their voters. They are beholden to a few individuals who helped secure their endorsement on the line. And we've seen this play out in various ways in state politics over the years where, we may go to a legislator and try to advocate for a specific policy. We may all remember how hard it was to get a millionaire's tax passed here in New Jersey, despite having a Democratic legislature and a Democratic governor. And that is not by accident. It is because we have state legislators who are very much beholden to certain party leaders or power brokers that did not want that millionaire's tax to happen. And of course, through the advocacy and fight of different partners, and of course, through the collaboration with Governor Murphy, who wanted to see that millionaire's tax, eventually we got there as a state. But it took a long time to get there. And so this fundamentally is a challenge to us, not only in the sense that it challenges our democracy, but it really hampers the participation of women and people of color at all levels of government. If you can imagine, and I'll just give myself as an example as a Black woman, someone like myself wanting to try to run for office in many, many parts of the state, and I realize Essex County is an exception because the chairman is in fact an African-American male. But in many, many parts of this state, all of our party chairs are essentially white men. There's a few women. We have a Latina woman in Somerset County as well. But for a majority of New Jersey's counties, the county chair is a white male. And so that in itself is problematic, I feel, at least, in my opinion, because if we truly want government that looks like the state of New Jersey, truly want representation that reflects the diversity and the different components of our state, then we need to have party leaders that not only reflect our communities, but also party leaders who are invested in making sure that people who are outside of the establishment, including women and people of color, are able to participate in government as candidates. I'm just keeping an eye on my time, but I want to give you some of the highlights. So what is the press saying about the line? They know it matters. And so these are some really recent articles to one of them coming from David Wildstein. So the press knows that the line is everything, and they're talking about it constantly. This was from 2021, the last time we had a statewide primary contest here in New Jersey. So organization lines prevail in primary contests across the state. Matt Freeman from Politico wrote, "The line wins." He said, "I won't be surprised if some of the off-the-line candidates in a few of the state's municipalities pull off victories. But once again, the line has proven to be a powerful force." Right, but how about the voters? I just talked to all of you here about this. And in the beginning of this, I said, "How do you guys feel about it?" You gave me a bunch of different emojis. Voters hate the line when you talk to them about it. And this has been proved out through a Fairleigh Dickinson University poll that was done just last year, November of 2022. Only 19% of New Jersey say that the county, only 19% of New Jerseyans say that the county chair should have an official role in endorsing candidates and giving them preferential placement on the ballot, while 2/3 oppose such a role. So I don't know who's in that 20% here. If you want to raise your hand, let me know if you're in that 20%, or rather, raise your hand raise your hand if you're in that almost 20%, so that we can have a conversation here. Well, what about the politician? Okay, because as candidates, again, I said that they know that this is a reality that they have to face. It's complicated. As we know, incumbents and candidates have to vie for the line in many cases to be a viable candidate. And so this is what former Governor and State Senator Richard Cody said, and this was quoted from a 2020 article that was focused on machine politics. And I think also Julius S. Rubin might have been quoted in this one. So the quote was, "When someone can give you $250,000 or $300,000 for a campaign, you owe them. When an important vote comes up, do you vote your conscience or do you do what leadership wants?" No one wants to admit it, but it's a simple fact of life. You got a close race and you need the dough. And so this just speaks volumes, because we know that the party line is not simply appearing on the ballot in a preferential position. What comes along with that is the resources of the party. And so if you're a candidate from the outside, you don't have the money, you don't have the data, you don't have the infrastructure to be able to compete. And so if you're a politician that's been elected in office for many, many years, you're not simply going to give that up. So it is very, very rare that you will hear an elected official speak out about the line. We do have some brave and courageous ones that have taken positions on it. But again, it is very, very rare to hear candidates, unless they are a victim of this system, to speak out about the line. I'm going to skip that one. So I just want to focus in. I realize that I'm running out of time, and I deeply apologize. I want to focus in on how the line serves as a barrier to entry for people of color and women as well. It is a barrier to entry for many underrepresented groups. So the Center for American Women in Politics, Rutgers University. Every time I say Rutgers, they're probably getting like $5 million every time I say that. But the Center for American Women in Politics at the Eagleton Institute, their executive director Debbie Walsh did a fantastic analysis, and they routinely do annual analysis of women's representation of the legislature. But just so recently, in April of 2023, Debbie Walsh wrote an op-ed where she basically said that 9 years ago, New Jersey was in the top 10 states for women's representation in state legislatures. Today, New Jersey isn't even in the top 20 states. This isn't by accident. It's due in part to the line. And then there's the quote here that I won't go into, but it's a very compelling quote that Debbie had given. But I want to focus on this year's primaries in particular. We are seeing an amount of retirements from the state legislature from women legislators in numbers that we have not seen before. And we are also seeing a number of women being primaried in primary elections and not receiving the line. I'll give an example right here in Essex County, right, where we have a primary election between our Senator Cody and Senator Nia Gill. And so, of course, we know that Nia Gill does not have the line. Richard Cody does have the line. And it would not surprise me if, although I'm not in the business of predicting elections, it wouldn't surprise me if Nia Gill did not win because of the line. And so we're going to lose an African American woman legislator. We're losing legislators like Sadaf Jaffer, Mila Jacey. Many women are leaving the state legislature, and that is not good for the sake of our democracy. And that's not just to say, I'm not someone who believes that representation is paramount when it comes to the effectiveness of our government, but it's something worth looking at and really analyzing and understanding. If we truly want a state legislature that looks like our state, particularly when women are the ones that are doing the work and running elections, then we really need to look at the line as a barrier. I am not going to read this whole entire story here, but this is a story off the line. This is Will Cunningham. He ran for Congress actually against Jeff Van Drew a few years ago. And so he's giving his experience about working for Senator Booker, having experience working for President Obama, working for Oversight Chairman Elijah Cummings. So he spent many of his years in public service, as I did, working in the United States Senate with some of our senior legislators. And his story basically goes and says that he was discarded by the party. Despite his experience, despite coming from an underserved and background, because he was not deemed to be the favorable candidate by the South Jersey Democratic political infrastructure, he was not given the line. Who did get the line was Jeff Van Drew at the time. And all of us know exactly how that turned out, where Jeff Van Drew then went and changed parties and became a MAGA Republican. So go figure. Go figure. The counties know the best candidates for sure. The county chairs know the best candidates for sure, guys. So that was a quote in 2002 that he gave. So I'm going to talk about our lawsuit. So what are we doing to get rid of the line? We are suing. And when I say we, I'm talking about New Jersey Working Families Alliance. We are a plaintiff in a lawsuit, as well as a number of candidates who have previously run off of the line and experienced many of the things that I talked about. So there are a number of plaintiffs, including R.T. Krybeck, who we know ran for Congress against Congressman Josh Gottheimer. There are other candidates that have run for county committee that are in that pool as well as plaintiffs. And so together there is a lawsuit that has been filed in federal court that has to deal with the constitutional rights of free association. Now, I'm not a free association expert, but the most important thing for you to understand in the context of that lawsuit is that it's in federal court and it has to deal with the constitutional validity of candidates being able to not associate with a political party on the line. So again, why are we suing? Because the system won't fix itself. And so rather than waiting for party insiders to decide that this is horrible and we want to give this up, we're going to force them to. And so the lawsuit really is about giving people like you and I, all of us here on this call, people who are reformers, believe in progressive change, believe in getting governing power for our communities, Black, Brown, and the multiracial working class. It is really about giving us an effective chance. And it is about unseating, frankly, incumbents who have been ineffective and been there for years and have done nothing for our communities. And so our lawsuit will make every elected official from the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot really understand that they must be accountable to the voters rather than party leaders. So this just goes into the little bit of the stages of where the line lawsuit is. I'm not going to read these all individually, but the most important thing that you should know right now is that there were multiple state Democratic forgive me, not state Democratic. There were a number of county parties that had filed motions to get the lawsuit dismissed. That took place between 2021 and 2022. And there were additional motions that were filed on behalf of various county clerks across the state as a motion to intervene, is what they call it, essentially trying to get the case delayed or moved to a different court. And in March of 2023, the judge essentially ruled that those motions to dismiss were invalid and will move us on to what's called discovery. And so what's happening right now, where the lawsuit stands, is that they're going to basically go in and get documents from every county clerk's office, and they will look at evidence and decide what's going to be allowed to be in the case or what's not going to be allowed into the case in terms of accompanying evidence as to each party's case. And so we're in the discovery process, which could be very long and arduous, but that's where we are right now. So I'm actually going to skip this. I was going to mention the bill that's actually in the state legislature right now, but for the sake of time, I'm going to skip that. So what can you do? I just talked about the lawsuit, and trust me, I asked Allison permission before I'm going to bring this up. But funding the fight is really what you can do. I really encourage everyone to, and I will show the link to the website for Abolish the Line. I really encourage everyone to follow what's going on with the case, follow New Jersey Working Families Party, as well as the Good Government Coalition of New Jersey, and really follow the experts as this case evolves. We're going to continue to fight and make sure that voters are knowledgeable about the line, but also fighting to make sure that the legal fight can continue. As I said, the court process is winding and very long, and we're in discovery. And so every little bit of contribution really helps this fight continue on behalf of so many New Jerseyans who want to see a representative democracy that truly works for them. And so please, if you can, whatever you were able to give, I'm not good at making the ask, but I'm gonna work on that, especially as state director. But please fund the fight, because truly we have a great legal team. If anybody knows Weitzman and Myth's law firm, their law firm has some of the brightest minds in the state that are consistently on behalf of working families issues, whether it be labor unions or otherwise. Please support our legal team and our legal fight. And here's the information on Abolish the Line. So keep up with us on Twitter, keep up with us on Facebook. AbolishTheLine.org is the website where you can see more stories off the line, like Will Cunningham's that I talked about. We have other candidates who've run in both Republicans and Democrats who have run off of the line, talking about their stories and how they've been victims of essentially this broken political system. And now we're on to questions, and I can take like 2 or 3, if that's all right.
That's great. Thank Antoinette. That is incredible. And I just want you to know we have the link in our chat right now to donate for the lawsuit right now.
Thank you.
We'll be distributing that again. So Erica has been collecting our questions. Erica, do you want to field 1 or 2 questions before we have to say goodnight to Antoinette?
Yes, a bunch of them have been answered as the presentation has gone along. But a couple
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I'm shocked.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Erica.
About why Sussex and Salem are different.
Why Sussex and Salem are different. I don't know the answer to that. And actually, I asked that question today to our attorney as I'm getting more smarter on the line lawsuit and trying to understand how that can be a compelling argument made in the case. Yeah, I don't know why Sussex and Salem are different. I really want to understand why, because I think, at least for me, and I think what that question is getting at is that simply if there are 2 counties that are already doing this differently in the state of New Jersey, why are the other counties allowed to sort of have a system and do it their own way? And I think the answer to that is fundamentally is that we don't have a uniform system across the state in terms of how our ballots are designed. And I think the heart of the line lawsuit, although it talked a lot about party leaders and party bosses, is fundamentally the thumb on the scale that the government, via the county clerk, is giving to candidates in terms of the way our ballot is designed. And so that is the crux of the argument that's being made in court, going back to constitutional rights and other things of that nature. So yeah, I wish I had an answer for you, but I want to know this too, and really get to understand how our state can have better ballot designs overall.
And for the last question, what are the arguments that you've heard from people for keeping it? Or is it just makes no sense?
Yeah, so I think I touched upon one of the arguments, and the main argument that I hear is that, the political parties, the county chairs, and various party leaders, they vet these candidates. They have a process. They are the ones who really know and understand and are able to get better candidates onto the ballot for voters to choose. And I pointed out the fallacy in that, but I'll even take it a step forward. I skipped the slide, and I almost regret doing that. But it was an op-ed written by a very well-known attorney in the state of New Jersey in Hudson County, who's affiliated with our beloved Senator Menendez, and I'll leave it at that. But essentially saying that the line, if we don't have the line in New Jersey, then New Jersey will have a George Santos. And that we would be, I see people laughing, right? And that because we have the line, the party, party leaders and other elected committee members are able to stop a situation like George Santos from happening in New Jersey. And my counter argument to that is that if you have to scare voters with a George Santos pathological liar situation, in order to have an argument to protect the system, then I'm not sure that's like a system that I want to be part of. And so my goal here is not to inspire people by playing upon their fears, but inspire people by playing upon their hopes. And hopefully that we can have a better system and a better democracy in the future that, of course, would never have a George Santos happen, but would allow for exactly like people like you and me who are on this call, who care about our communities, who are on this call with me at 8:30 at night on a Wednesday, have people like us be able to step up to the plate and actually have a viable chance.
That
I can
is
take one more if that's
oh,
all right.
great. Oh, we would love to have you. Yes, we just want to,
One more.
make sure we respect your time. Erica, you want to throw one more out there?
Oh, yes. So one person was concerned in the chat, doing away with the line is surely more democratic, but I worry it will make the Democratic Party weaker as we try to take on the GOP. So responses to that.
Yeah. The crux of that was, if we get rid of the line, it could potentially weaken the parties and make us more susceptible to like MAGA Republicans or the GOP taking over the state. Was that the okay? Okay, I just want to make sure I understood that correctly. Yeah, so I know I talked a lot about the Democratic Party and Democratic chairs, but keep in mind that the line is an issue that is on both sides, that benefits both parties. And so I'm gonna forget which district this is, but it was Diane Gov who, obviously politically I would never agree with her, but she had been in office for about, I want to say, 20 years and fell out of favor with the party chair in Morris County, I believe it was, and didn't receive the line. And after that many years of being an incumbent, she didn't get the line and she lost. And so this, I think, to get at the point of, does this weaken the Democratic Party and opens us up to a Republican takeover? I would contend no, because this is a system that is benefiting both parties. Both parties do this and benefit from this system. And so I don't think that our democracy ends up being threatened by Republicans in that vein. I hope that's a helpful answer.
Absolutely. Antoinette, thank you so much on behalf of everyone here at Soma Action. We can't thank you enough for spending this time with us and educating us. Would love to grab a PDF of those slides, possibly.
Absolutely. I
I'll
will
touch
share it
base
with
with you
you.
offline.
I will share it
I
with you
know we would
tomorrow.
love to have that in our educational toolbox here at Soma Action. But we just want to say thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And we definitely hope that everyone here can make a meaningful contribution to this lawsuit if you are able to. So we're going to say good night to Antoinette. Please stay on the line.
Thank
We have
you.
a few more minutes. Goodbye. Good night. Thank you so much. We want to make sure that folks here for Soma Action, we want to hold you just for a minute. Before we say goodnight and talk about some upcoming opportunities for Soma Action, I wanted to quickly hand it over to one of my co-chairs, Erica, who you've already heard from tonight, because she has an amazing study that she has written about other consequences of the line that we would love to speak about, tell you about, and share with you.
Thank you, Allison. I'm just going to drop the link in here real quick before I forget. This is a working paper that I am working on that's looking at another aspect of the line, which is that it often sets up slates of candidates, or those slates are of different sizes. This is also another consequence of how New Jersey does its multi-member races. So multi-member just means that you vote for 2 candidates or 3 candidates or 4 candidates instead of just for 1. There's not very much mathematics in the paper. There's one little formula, but one of the really surprising consequences of that is that if you have what often happens with the line, where you have a single candidate or a smaller number of candidates running off the line, and then multiple candidates forming a full slate on the line, is that the candidate running off the line faces mathematical challenges that are very difficult to surmount. Assuming that voters vote for all or use all of their votes and are willing to vote for some of the on-the-line candidates, you can have situations where an off-the-line candidate is the favorite of 60%, 70%, sometimes even up to 80% of voters who have that candidate as their number 1 choice, and it is still almost mathematically impossible for them to win. The good news is that is something that is surmountable by strategic voting, even as the lawsuits work their way, and even as we work on measures that will fix it more permanently. You should know, and all your friends should know, that if you are supporting an off-the-line candidate for either your top choice or your second choice, or if you want them to win at all, it's really important. Give me just a second, sweetie. To vote only for that candidate. If you cast your other votes for the people on the line, then your first choice candidate is pretty much guaranteed not to win. And you can look through the paper if you like. It's only 7 pages for more of the details on that and more of the details on strategic voting. I also want to put in a quick plug for ranked choice voting, which is the ballot reform, in addition to getting rid of the line, that makes it possible to avoid some of these effects more consistently. So yeah, back over to you, Allison.
Great. Thank you so much, Erica. I really encourage you all to read Erica's study. She is our resident expert here on the Democracy Action Committee. I know we're getting to that time, so before our time is up, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight and helping us take these first steps in organizing for a more fair and democratic election process right here at home. If you would like to learn more about what Soma Action does and attend more webinars like this and more actions, please check us out on Facebook. We are there at Soma Action Discussion, which is our group. We have an Instagram channel. We also have our website, which is somaaction.org. You can find all about our committees and how to get involved. You could also consider becoming a sustaining member of Soma Action, which is only $20 a year. You can, of course, give more if that is something that you are able to do, a meaningful contribution. But starting at $20 a year, you are considered a sustaining member. You get some perks, such as getting to vote on endorsements, which I'm talking about tonight, because Soma Action is currently going through a membership vote. Soma Action is hoping to endorse Frank McGehee, who is running off of the line on next Tuesday's June 6th primary. So our members are able to vote whether or not Soma Action will be endorsing him. Sustaining members also get their first drink free at our monthly Politics at the Pub on the last Thursday of each month, held downtown in Maplewood at St. James Gate. So, all of that, we hope you will join us. Democracy Action Committee will be keeping tabs on all of this and more. And just as a final reminder, we are only as strong as our community, and I am so thankful that Antoinette was here tonight to educate us all. And I'm so thankful to our Democracy Action Committee members who made this evening possible, and to our community here who showed up to show that New Jersey is ready for more progressive voting policies. And thank you for standing up for democracy tonight. Thank you so much, and we really hope to work with all of you soon. Take care, everybody.